Hey Hufflepuffers!
Welcome to the Hufflepuffers podcast
With Tasha
and Becca. Hey Hufflepuffers, welcome back. It's episode 7, Fireworks.
and welcome to
Hogwarts! Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy-Woggy Hogwarts. Tasha was trying to get me to stop, but I wouldn't listen to her.
Okay.
Welcome again.
I was
Welcome.
Quibbler today. And guess what? We have 14
Subscribers!
Yay! So thank you everyone. It's nice to see you.
I was pausing for dramatic emphasis, so
I thought you forgot.
you have to talk into the computer.
I hope I can hear him.
You
Computer's
can't.
really far from
You
me.
can't.
I think we should pause it and check if they can hear us.
Nah.
Okay, sorry if
It's
I'm
good
quiet.
Well, we were recording over the phone for like ever, so
Yeah.
this has to be an improvement on that. Actually, I was holding you like this, yet they still couldn't hear you. So this should be better.
Hopefully. So last week I was in the Quibbler. I was mentioning how
That it was better.
how there's a TV show, Harry Potter TV show coming up, and I've been looking into it, and it's just really confusing because Warner Brothers has the rights, but I think they're just doing this because they're like, they want a big thing so they can compete with all the other streaming services.
Wait, isn't Warner Brothers the one that made Monopoly and Clue?
Maybe I don't know. No,
And
I think
that's
it's a
Parker
different brothers.
Brothers.
There's a lot of famous brothers.
Yes. They made Monopoly and Clue.
Yes, Warner Brothers
Every good.
just has the rights to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They're like Disney. They buy out everything.
the point is we may never get this movie, the show. But hey, or maybe we will. We'll see.
She keeps calling it show.
We'll just
movie.
We'll just keep an eye out for it, and I'll tell you if there's any real updates.
Yes. We want a real update in the Quibbler, Tasha.
There was a real
Quibbler's
update.
not now.
Luna is disappointed in you.
Why? Why?
Because you just said the Quibbler isn't real.
The Oh, I forgot. I thought there was a Daily Prophet.
No.
I get them confused sometimes. I'm sorry, Luna.
I'm even more offended by that.
Okay, it's been like a year. 2 years since I read the book.
Okay. Speaking of reading books, well, we're moving on to Hogwarts Library.
Tasha, you didn't do that.
Oh, sorry. Hogwarts Library.
We're weird.
Okay, so everyone get your books out. We're on Chapter 7. The Sorting Hat. The door swung open at once. A tall, black-haired witch in an emerald green robe stood there. She had a very stern face, and Harry's first thought was that this was not someone to cross. The first year, Professor McGonagall,
Good thought, Harry,
said Hagrid. Thank you, Hagrid. I will take them from here. She pulled the door wide. The entrance hall was so big you could have fit the whole of Dursley's house in it. The stone walls were lit with flaming torches like the ones at Gringotts. The ceiling was too high to make out, and a magnificent marble staircase facing them led to the upper floors. They followed Professor McGonagall across the flagged stone floor. Harry could hear the drone of hundreds of voices from a doorway to the right. The rest of the school must already be here, but Professor McGonagall showed the first years into a small, empty chamber off the hall. They crowded in, standing rather closer together than they would usually have done, peering about nervously. Welcome to Hogwarts, said Professor McGonagall. The start of term banquet will begin shortly, but before you take your seats in the Great Hall, you will be sorted into your houses. The sorting is a very important ceremony because while you are here, your house will be something like your family within Hogwarts. You have classes with the rest of your house, sleep in your house dormitory, and spend free time in your house common room. The 4 houses are called Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Each house has its own noble history, and each has produced outstanding witches and wizards. While you are at Hogwarts, your triumphs will earn you house points, while any rule breaking will lose house points. At the end of the year, the house with the most points is awarded the House Cup, a great honor. I hope each of you will be credit to whichever house becomes yours. The sorting hat ceremony will take place in a few minutes in front of the rest of the school. I suggest you all smarten yourselves up as much as you can while you're waiting." Her eyes lingered for a moment on Neville's cloak, which was fastened under his left ear, and on Ron's smudged nose. Harry nervously tried to flatten his hair. "I shall return when we are ready for you," said Professor McGonagall. "Please wait quietly." She left the chamber. Harry swallowed. "How exactly do they sort us into houses?" he asked Ron. "Some sort of test, I think. Fred said it hurts a lot, but I think he was joking." Harry's heart gave a horrible jolt. A test? In front of the whole school? But he didn't have any magic yet. What on earth would he have to do? He hadn't expected something like this the moment they arrived. He looked around anxiously and saw that everyone else looked terrified too. No one was talking much, except Hermione Granger, who was whispering very fast about all the spells she'd learnt and wondering which one she'd need. Harry tried hard not to listen to her. He'd never been more nervous. Never. Not even when he'd had to take a school report home to the Dursleys saying that he'd somehow turned his teacher's wig blue. He kept his eyes fixed on the door. Any second now, Professor McGonagall would come back and lead him to the dorm. Then something happened which made him jump about a foot in the air. Several people behind him screamed. "What the?" he gasped. So did the people around him. About 20 ghosts had just streamed through the back wall, pearly white and slightly transparent. They glided across the room, talking to each other and hardly glancing at the first years. They seemed to be arguing. What looked like a fat little monk was saying, "Forgive and forget, I say. We ought to give him a second chance." "My dear Friar, haven't we given Peeves all the chances he deserves? He gives us all a bad name, and you know he's not really even a ghost. I say, what are you all doing here?" A ghost wearing rough and tights suddenly noticed the first year. Nobody answered. "New students," said the friar, smiling around at them. "About to be sorted, I suppose." A few people nodded mutely. "Hope to see you in Hufflepuff," said the friar. "My old house, you know." "Move along now," said a sharp voice. "The sorting ceremony's about to start." Professor McGonagall had returned. One by one, the ghosts floated away through the opposite door. Walls. "Now, form a line," Professor McGonagall told the first year, "and follow me." Feeling oddly as though his legs had turned to lead, Harry got into line behind a boy with sandy hair, with Ron behind him, and they walked out of the chamber, back across the hall, and through a pair of double doors into the great hall. Harry had never imagined such a strange and splendid place. It was lit by thousands and thousands of candles, which were floating in mid-air over 4 long tables, where the rest of the students were sitting. These tables were laid with glittering golden plates and goblets. At the top of the hall was another long table where the teachers were sitting. Professor McGonagall led the first years up here, so that they came to a halt in line facing the other students. With the teachers behind them, the hundreds of faces staring at them looked like pale lanterns in a flickering candlelight. Dotted here and there among the students, the ghosts shone misty silver, mainly to avoid all the staring eyes. Harry looked upwards and saw a velvety black ceiling dotted with stars. He heard Hermione whisper, It's bewitched to look like the sky outside. I read about it in Hogwarts history." It was hard to believe there was a ceiling there at all, and that the great hall didn't simply open up to the heavens. Harry quickly looked down again as Professor McGonagall silently placed a 4-legged stool in front of the first year. On top of the stool she put a pointed wizard's hat. This hat was patched and frayed and extremely dirty. Aunt Petunia wouldn't have let it in the house. Maybe they had to try and get a rabbit out of it, Harry thought wildly. That seemed the sort of thing. Noticing that everyone in the hall was now staring at the hat, he stared at it too. For a few seconds there was complete silence. Then the hat twitched. A rip near the brim opened wide like a mouth, and the hat began to sing. "Oh, you may not think I'm pretty, but don't judge on what you see. I'll eat myself if you can find a smarter hat than me. You can keep your bowlers black, your top hat sleek and tall, for I'm the Hogwarts sorting hat, and I can cap them all. There's nothing hidden in your head the sorting hat can't see, so try me on, and I will tell you where you ought to be. You might belong in Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Their daring, nerve, and chivalry sets Gryffindor apart. You might belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. Or yet in wise old Ravenclaw, if you've a ready mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. Or perhaps in Slytherin you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends. So put me on, don't be afraid, and don't get in a flap. You're in safe hands, though I have none, for I'm a thinking cap." The whole hall burst into applause as the hat finished its song. It bowed to each of the 4 tables and then became quiet get quite still again. So we've just got to try on the hat, Ron whispered to Harry. I'll kill Fred. He was going on about wrestling a troll. Harry smiled weakly. Yes, trying on the hat was a lot better than having to do a spell. But he did wish they could have tried it on without everyone watching. The hat seemed to be asking rather a lot. Harry didn't feel brave or quick-witted or any of it at the moment. If only the hat had mentioned a house for people who felt a bit queasy. That would have been the one for him. Professor McGonagall now stepped forward holding a long roll of parchment. When I call your name, you will put on the hat and sit on the stool to be sorted, she said. Abba, Hannah, a pink-faced girl with blonde pigtails stumbled out of line, put on the hat, which fell right down over her eyes, and sat down. A moment pause. Hufflepuff! Shouted the hat. The table on the right cheered and clapped as Hannah went to sit down at the Hufflepuff table. Harry saw the ghost of the fat friar waving merrily at her. Bones, Susan. Hufflepuff! Shouted to the hat again, and Susan scuttled off to sit next to Hannah. Boot, Terry. Ravenclaws! The table second from the left clapped this time. Several Ravenclaws stood up to shake hands with Terry as he joined them. Brocklehurst Mandy went to Ravenclaw too, but Brown Lavender became the first new Gryffindor, and the table on the far left exploded with cheers. Harry could see Ron's twin brothers catcalling. Bulstrode Millicent then became a Slytherin. Perhaps it was Harry's imagination, after all he'd heard about Slytherins, but he thought they looked an unpleasant lot. He was starting to feel definitely sick now. He remembered being picked for teams during sports lessons at his old school. He had always been last to be chosen, not because he was no good, but because no one wanted Dudley to think they liked him. Finch Fletchy Justin, Hufflepuff! Sometimes, Harry noticed, the hat shouted out the house at once, but others it took a little while to decide. Finnegan Seamus, the sandy-haired boy next to Harry in the line, sat on the stool for almost a whole minute before the hat declared him a Gryffindor. Granger Hermione. Hermione almost ran to the stool and jammed the hat eagerly on her head. Gryffindor! Shouted the hat. Ron groaned. A horrible thought struck Harry, as horrible thoughts always do when you're getting very nervous. What if he wasn't chosen at all? What if he just sat there with the hat over his eyes for ages, until Professor McGonagall jerked it off his head and said there had obviously been a mistake, and he'd better get back on the train? When Neville Longbottom, the boy who kept losing his toes, was called, he fell over on his way to the stool. The hat took a long time to decide with Neville. When it finally shouted, Gryffindor! Neville ran off still wearing it, and had to jog back in gales of laughter to give it to McDougal Morag. Malfoy swaggered forward when his name was called and got his wish at once. The hat barely touched his head when it screamed, Slytherin!
No!
Malfoy went to join his friends, Crabbe and Goyle looking pleased with himself. There weren't many people left now. Moon, Knott, Parkinson, then a pair of twin girls, Patil, then Perks, Sally Ann, and then at last, Potter, Harry. As Potter stepped forward, whispers suddenly broke out, his little hissing fires all over the hall. Potter, did she say? The Harry Potter? The last thing Harry saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was the hall full of people craning to get a good look at him. Next second, he was looking at the black inside of the hat. He waited. Said a small voice in his ear. Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind, either. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes. And a nice thirst to prove yourself. Now that's interesting. So where shall I put you? Harry gripped the edge of the stool and thought, Not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Not Slytherin, eh? Said the small voice. Are you sure? You could be great. You know it's all here in your head, and Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness. No doubt about that. No? Well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor! Harry heard the hat shout the last word to the whole hall. He took off the hat and walked shakily toward the Gryffindor table. He was so relieved to have been chosen and not put in Slytherin. He hardly noticed that he was getting the loudest cheer yet. Percy the prefect got up and shook his hand vigorously, while the Weasley twins yelled, We got Potter! We got Potter! Harry sat down opposite the ghost in the ruff he'd seen earlier. The ghost patted his arm, giving Harry the sudden, horrible feeling he just plunged it into a bucket of ice-cold water. He could see the high table properly now. At the end nearest him sat Hagrid. He caught his eye and gave him the thumbs up. Harry grinned back, and there, in the centre of the high table, in a large gold chair, sat Albus Dumbledore. Harry recognized him at once from the card he got out of the chocolate frog on the train. Dumbledore's silver hair was the only thing in the whole hall that shone as brightly as the ghost. Harry spotted Professor Quirrell, too, the nervous young man from the leaky cauldron. He was looking very peculiar in the large purple turban. And now there were only 3 people left to be sorted. Turpin Leaset became a Ravenclaw, and then it was Ron's turn. He was a pale green by now. Harry crossed his fingers under the table, and a second later the hat shouted, "Gryffindor!" Harry clapped loudly with the rest as Ron clapped into the chair decked to him. "Well done, Ron! Excellent!" said Percy Weasley pompously across Harry as the beanie blaze was made to Slytherin. Professor McGonagall rolled up her scroll and took the sorting hat away. Harry looked down at his empty gold plate. He had only just realized how hungry he was. The pumpkin pasties seemed ages ago. Albus Dumbledore had got to his feet. He was beaming at the students, his arms open wide, as if nothing could have pleased him more than to see them all there. "Welcome," he said. "Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our banquet, I would like to say a few words. And here they are. Nitwit, Blubber, Oddment, Tweak." "Thank you." He sat back down. Everybody clapped and cheered. Harry didn't know whether to laugh or not. "Is he a bit mad?" he asked Percy uncertainly. "Mad," said Percy airily. "He's a genius, best wizard in the world. But he is a bit mad." "Yes. Potatoes, Harry?" Harry's mouth fell open. The dishes in front of him were now piles of food. He had never seen so many things he liked to eat on one table. Roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops and lamb chops, sausages, bacon and steak, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, chips, Yorkshire pudding, peas, carrots, gravy, ketchup, and for some strange reason, mint humbugs. The Dursleys had never exactly starved Harry, but he'd never been allowed to eat as much as he liked. Dudley had always taken anything that Harry really wanted, even if it made him sick. Harry piled his plate with a bit of everything except the humbugs and bugs and began to eat. It was all delicious. "That does look good," said the ghost in a rough sally, watching Harry cut up his steak. "Can't you? I haven't eaten for nearly 500 years, said the ghost. "I don't need to, of course, but one does miss it. I don't think I've introduced myself. Sir Nicholas D. Mimsy Porpington at your service, resident ghost of Gryffindor Tower." "I know who you are," said Ron suddenly. "My brother told me about you. You're nearly Headless Nick." "I would prefer you to call me Sir Nicholas de Mimsy," the ghost began stiffly, but sandy-haired Seamus Finnegan interrupted. "Nearly headless? How can you be nearly headless?" Sir Nicholas looked extremely miffed, as if their little chat wasn't going at all the way he wanted. "Like this," he said irritably. He seized his left ear and pulled. His whole head swung off his neck and fell onto his shoulders, as if it was on a hinge. Someone had obviously tried to behead him, but not done it properly. Looking pleased at the stunned look on their faces, nearly Headless Nick flipped his head back on his neck, coughed, and said, "So, new Gryffindors, I hope you're going to help us with the house champions this year. Gryffindor have never gone so long without winning. Slytherin have got the cup 6 years in a row. The Bloody Bear is becoming almost unbearable." He's the Slytherin ghost. Harry looked over at the Slytherin table and saw a horrible ghost sitting there, with blank staring eyes, a gaunt face, and robes stained with silver blood. He was right next to Malfoy, who Harry was pleased to see didn't look too pleased with the seating arrangement. "How did he get covered in blood?" asked Seamus with great interest. "I've never asked," said Nearly Headless Nick delicately. When everyone had eaten as much as they could, the remains of the food faded from their plates, leaving them sparkling clean as before. A moment later the puddings appeared, blocks of ice cream in every flavor you could think of, apple pies, treacle tarts, chocolate eclairs, and jam donuts, trifles, strawberries, jelly, rice pudding. As Harry helped himself to a treacle tart, the talk turned to their families. "I'm half and half," said Seamus. "Me dad the Muggle. Mum just didn't tell him she was a witch till after they were married. Bit of a nasty shock for him." The others laughed. "What about you, Neville?" said Ron. "Well, my gran brought me up, and she's a witch," said Neville, "but the family thought I was all Muggle for ages. My great-uncle Elgie kept trying to catch me off my guard and force the magic out of me. He pushed me off the end of the Blackpool Pier once. I nearly drowned, but nothing happened until I was 8. Great-uncle Elgie came round for tea, and he was hanging me out of an upstairs window by the ankles when my grand-auntie had offered him a meringue, and he accidentally let go, but I bounced all the way down the garden and into the road. They were all really pleased. Gran was crying, she was so happy. And you should have seen their faces when I got in here. They thought I might not be magic enough to come, you see. Great-uncle Algie was so pleased he bought me my own toad." On Harry's other side, Percy, Weasley, and Hermione were talking about lessons. "I do hope they start straight away. There's so much to learn. I'm particularly interested in transfiguration. You know, turning something into something else, of course. It's supposed to be very difficult." "You'll be starting small, just matches into needles and that sort of thing. Harry, who was starting to feel warm and sleepy, looked up at the high table again. Hagrid was drinking deeply from his goblet. Professor McGonagall was talking to Professor Dumbledore. Professor Quirrell, in his absurd turban, was talking to the teacher with greasy black hair, a hooked nose, and swallow skin. It happened very suddenly. The hook-nosed teacher looked past Quirrell's turban straight into Harry's eyes, and a sharp, hot pain shot across the scar on Harry's forehead. Ouch! Harry clapped a hand to his head. What is it? asked Percy. Nothing. The pain had gone as quickly as it had come. Harder to shake off was the feeling Harry got from the teacher's look, a feeling that he didn't like at all. A feeling that he didn't like Harry at all. Who's that teacher talking to Professor Quirrell? He asked Percy. Oh, you know Quirrell already, do you? No wonder he's looking so nervous. That's Professor Snape. He teaches potions, but he doesn't want to. Everyone knows he's after Quirrell's job. Knows an awful lot about the dark arts, Snape. Harry watched Snape for a while, but Snape didn't look at him again. At last the puddings, too, disappeared, and Professor Dumbledore got to his feet again. The hall fell silent. Just a few more words now we've all fed and watered. I have a few start-of-the-term notices to give you. First years should note that the forest in the grounds is forbidden to all pupils, and a few of our older students would do well to remember that as well. Dumbledore's twinkling eye flashed in the direction of the Weasley twins. I have also been asked by Mr. Filch, the caretaker, to remind you all that no magic should be used between classes in the corridors. Quidditch trials will be held in the second week of term. Anyone interested in playing for their house term should contact Madame Hooch. And finally, I must tell you that this year, the third-floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. Harry laughed, but he was one of the few who did. He's not serious, he muttered to Percy. Must be, said Percy, frowning at Dumbledore. It's odd, because it usually gives us a reason why we're not allowed to go somewhere. The forest full of dangerous beasts, everyone knows that. I do think he might have told his prefects at least. And now, before we go to bed, let us sing the school song, cried Dumbledore. Harry noticed that the other teachers' smiles had become rather fixed. Dumbledore gave his wand a little flick as if he were trying to get a fly off the end. A long golden ribbon flew out of it, which rose high above the table, then twisted itself snake-like into words. Everyone picked their favorite tune, said Dumbledore, and off we go. And the school bellowed. Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy-Warty, Hogwarts. Teach us something, please, whether we be old and bald, or young, which scabby knees. Our heads could do with filling with some interesting stuff, for now they're bare and full of air, dead flies and bits of fluff. So teach the things worth knowing, bring back what we forgot. Just do your best, we'll do the rest and learn until our brains will rot.
So teach us things worth knowing, bring back what we forgot. Just do your best, we'll do the rest and learn until our brains rot.
Everybody finished the songs at different times. At last, only the Weasley twins were left singing along to a very slow funeral march. Dumbledore conducted their last few lines with his wand, and when they had finished, he was one of those who clapped loudest. Ah, music, he said, wiping his eyes. A magic beyond all we do here. And now, bedtime, off you trot. The Gryffindor first year followed Percy through the chattering crowds, out of the great hall and up the marble staircase. Harry's legs were like lead again, but only because he was so tired and full of food. He was too sleepy even to be surprised that the people in the porches along the corridor whispered and pointed as they passed, or that twice Percy led them through doorways hidden behind sliding panels and hanging tapestries. They climbed even more staircases, yawning and dragging their feet, and Harry was just wondering how much further they had to go when they came to a sudden halt. A bundle of walking sticks was floating in mid-air ahead of them, and as Percy took a step towards them, they started throwing themselves at him. Peeves, Percy whispered to the first year, a poltergeist. He raised his voice. Peeves, show yourself. A loud, rude sound like the air being let out of a balloon answered. Do you want me to go to the Bloody Baron? There was a pop, and a little man with wicked dark eyes and a wide mouth appeared, floating cross-legged in the air, clutching the walking sticks. Ooh, he said with an evil cackle. Ickle firsties, what fun. He slid suddenly at them. They all ducked. Go away, Peeves, or the Baron will hear about this. I mean it, barked Percy. Peeves stuck his tongue out and vanished, dropping the walking stick on Neville's head. They heard him zooming away, rattling coats of armor as he passed. You want to watch out for Peeves, said Percy as they set off again. The Bloody Baron's the only one who can control him. He won't even listen to us prefects. Here we are. At the very end of the corridor hung a portrait of a woman in a pink silk dress. Password, she said. Caput Draconus, said Percy, and the portrait swung forward to reveal a round hole in the wall. They all scrambled through it. Neville needed a leg up and found himself in the Gryffindor common room, a cozy, round room full of squashy armchairs. Percy directed the girls through one door to their dormitory and the boys through another. At the top of a spiral staircase, they were obviously in one of the towers. They found their beds at last. 5 four-posters hung with deep red velvet curtains. Their trunks had already been brought up. Too tired to talk much, they pulled on their pajamas and fell into bed. Great food, isn't it? Ron muttered to Harry through the hangings. Get off, Scabbers. He's chewing my sheets. Harry was going to ask Ron if he'd had any of the treacle tart, but he fell asleep almost at once. Perhaps Harry had eaten a bit too much, because he had a very strange dream. He was wearing Professor Quirrell's turban, which kept talking to him, telling him he must transfer to Slytherin at once, because it was his destiny. Harry told the turban he didn't want to be in Slytherin. It got heavier and heavier. He tried to pull it off, but it tightened painfully. And there was Malfoy, laughing at him as he struggled with it. Then Malfoy turned into the hook-nosed teacher Snape, whose laugh became high and cold. There was a burst of green light, and Harry woke, sweating and shaking. He rolled over and fell asleep again. And when he woke next day, he didn't remember the dream at all.
I wonder what that dream could have meant.
And that's the end of the chapter.
I wonder what that dream could have ever meant.
And I'm so tired. Oh my gosh. I need some water, I think.
We gotta go get it.
So, what did you think of the chapter, Becca? No, you were sweeping through a lot of it.
I'm
yes,
not
I said sweeping.
Yes, I took my broom I like to fly on. And I was sweeping the rug. I was sweeping a rug.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what did you think of the sorting hat chapter?
There was... excuse me. There's something I wanted to say, and then I forgot again.
Oh, one thing I wanted to say last week, but I forgot, was that that one part when... Okay, sorry. You know how Hermione, you guys will learn this soon, she always says, no one ever reads Hogwarts the history, but Harry read it. But he did not remember anything, because in the last chapter, he was like, yeah, I got my books, I read through all of them, they were so interesting, and he specifically mentioned reading Hogwarts the history. But he never says anything when Hermione's like, Hogwarts the history, haven't you read it? Why won't you read it?
But didn't he say that he hadn't read through all his books entirely at one point, too?
Not in the chapter, because I paid close attention to that, because I always wondered that.
Okay, so I forget what I was going to say again, and it undermines me, because I was like, okay, I assume I can...
Well, let's see what happened. I'll recap the chapter.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
So, I know why the Bloody Bear's covered in blood.
Oh, yes.
And it's a very depressing story. I watched a YouTube video on it, and I was, depressed for the next 2 days.
And it's really sad, I know. We love the ghost, but then when you think about, oh my god, Myrtle makes me sad. You guys haven't met Myrtle, but Myrtle, I love Myrtle.
I don't like the whole ghost concept after watching the video. It sort of the whole thing sort of makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a depressing concept, I guess.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense either.
Not really, no.
Well,
I think there's something JK just wanted ghosts there, but she didn't think it through. Especially, no, I can't say that, too many spoilers.
She also didn't think through the whole time turner topic, but you also don't know about that.
Yeah, that's a mess.
Oh my gosh. And she wanted to retract the time turner too, but instead she made it worse. Made it worse.
She did fix it, and then she made it worse.
Yeah, by selling the rights of Harry Potter to the makers of Cursed Child. Oh my gosh. We can't stand Cursed Child.
No. It's really bad.
Read it. It's really good.
We will read it once we finish the series.
Well, it's really bad, but that's what makes it so good. We're those people that like watching stuff and reading stuff, even if we don't like it, just to complain about it. Yeah, we're those people.
The songs, I love all the songs in
Yes.
this. They make me really happy.
The two cool songs.
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite lines in here is what was it? When Harry was like, what was it? I don't remember anymore. Okay, you need to talk while I try to remember.
Okay. Well, I tried to think of what it was that I actually wanted to say, because the different ones that was in it. It was something about the sorting hat, I was saving it for Hogwarts Hollywood,
Mm.
and it was this morning.
I have something for Hogwarts to Hollywood too, but we'll wait till we get there.
Oh my gosh. Can we move it forward today? Because we're going to forget them.
No, we can't. We'll get there
Oh my
soon
gosh.
anyways.
Wow, Tasha. You're like, no, we can't. Ah.
Okay, well, I don't know exactly what it
We
was.
forgot to announce what this part of the...
Oh yeah, we're on Hogwarts alumni.
Alumni.
But yeah, it's just all those parts when Harry's just like, oh no, what if they don't let me in? I'm just like, oh, that's so sweet.
Did he actually think that they would bring him all the way here and then tell him to go back home?
I think so. Poor little Harry.
And I can't believe they made them wait that long to eat.
Oh my god. Yes, I know. But they didn't make him wait too long because, you know.
Through the whole sorting ceremony, and they had to listen to Dumbledore be like,
He only said 4 words.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like.
I love Dumbledore.
Then they had to try and figure out why Dumbledore was so crazy.
Percy. He is so
Annoying.
pretentious, yeah.
What's pretentious?
Pretentious is being, like, kind of thinking you're better than everyone and just being very, like, snooty, kind of.
Thanks for the definition. I've heard that word, like, so many times, but never knew what it meant.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's like that, but it's also, like, being snooty and stuff because you think you're above people, basically, yeah.
I watched this show,
Mm-hmm.
and then some of the characters were writing a book,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was like a children's book, and then the one character was like, that's pretentious. And then they're like, you think my book, one person was like, you think my book is pretentious? And then they're like, no, pretentious. Just because like to pretend.
Oh, that's funny.
It was very
That makes
funny.
sense. I was wondering how a children's book was pretentious.
No, it was pretentious.
Pretentious. That's really
That's
funny.
hard to say though. Pretentious.
Oh yeah, I know what else I was gonna say. Why is with all the Slytherin hate? Like, I don't understand J.K. Rowling.
I was just saying boo for Malfoy, not
I wasn't. I was complaining about J.K.
I know.
Because, like, I don't understand why she, like, in the beginning, she's always like, Slytherins are bad. I hate Slytherin. But, like, this isn't really a spoiler, but in the end, she's like, Slytherins are good, and her whole point is, so being a Slytherin doesn't mean you're bad, which is, so I don't understand
I think
any
she
of
like
that.
wanted everyone to not like Slytherin at first, but then she wanted to show that everyone's making a realization that Slytherins aren't all bad.
Maybe, but then she does keep going, like, back and forth on it throughout.
True.
Like in the end, when all the Slytherins
Oh
walked.
my gosh.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I just remembered that.
yeah, that was
That
weird.
was depressed. You'll get depressed a lot through the series. So if you do not like getting depressed, stop reading now. Start off this episode. Keep subscribed though.
She wants to lose all of you, apparently.
No.
I'm just kidding.
And then like if you get like really depressed, like really depressed.
Yeah. Okay, now let's go on to questioning Quirrell. Okay, Becca. You were listening this time.
Hey, I had to go to the bathroom, so not my fault.
What were the 4 words that
Oh my
Dumbledore uttered?
Oh, I know these, but I like always try to say them, and then I end up being like burlap. It's like bladder. What?
Oh, blood.
Bladder.
This is the
Tweet.
second word. Yeah, that's one of them.
Tweet. Blood.
You're really close.
Blood.
That's closer. I'll give it to you. Blubber.
Blubber. It's blubber.
And there's 2 more.
Tinkle. Tinsel.
Nope.
Twinkle.
Nope.
Twinsel.
Let me know when you give up.
There we go.
The first word starts with an N.
Oh my god.
It's 2 syllables.
Niblet.
Yes. And what's the third word?
Niblet. Blank. Blubber. Tweet, right?
Blubber is the second one.
Niblet. Blubber. Tweet.
Starts with an O. Has also 2 syllables, but it's longer. The first one is a word that people use.
Gosh.
Maybe to describe our podcast.
Weird.
Oddment.
Oh, odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Odd, weird. They're synonyms. They're
Cinnamon. Sure. My second question is, what treat did Harry want to try when the desserts appeared?
There's something tart.
Yeah.
And he wanted to ask one, but it was like, Makuka. The Makuka tart.
No. Did you give up?
Yes.
Truckle tart.
The Makuka tart.
No.
She's saying Makuka.
So, do you have any questions for me?
Yes.
Yes.
What's your question?
My answer is yes.
Okay. Okay. So a lot of questions to ask you come to mind, but now that's my favorite
Oh
Potter.
my goodness.
Let me see this. Please take the book and attach his hands.
No.
What is the last word that the Sorting Hat says in its song?
Okay.
Are you just trying to listen to the whole thing?
I don't remember. It's I'm the Sorting Hat, dude. That's not the line at all. I'm gonna guess it's rot. No, that's in the other song.
It's cat.
Cat,
For I'm a
right?
thinking cat.
Yeah, how did I forget?
For I'm a thinking cat.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. Sorry, Sorting Hat.
Okay, what is the... How do you spell Slytherin?
S-L-Y-T-8.
Nope.
I-S-L-I-T.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
You fell for
Thank
it.
God. T-H-E-R-I-N.
Well, I'm going to re-say that. I missed it.
No, I'm not.
I was laughing too.
Okay.
How do you spell Ravenclaw?
R-A-V-E-N. These questions are not fun. C-L-A-Y.
What is the first word in the chapter?
First word in the chapter. This is why I asked the question. I think the first word is first.
Why was the first word be first?
Because
It's the. The door. Open.
I was going with
also,
first year's over here.
I have something. Hold on, back. Hogwarts alumni.
What do you have to say on Hogwarts alumni?
Oh shoot, I forgot. Hold on. Oh yeah, it's a thinking hat. Australian. Not Slytherin, eh?
Who said the thinking hat was Australian?
Not the thinking hat. The sorting hat.
The sorting hat's Australian?
Yes, it's like it's not British. It's Australian. It's like not Slytherin, eh?
But Lainey says A. And so did lots of people.
Yeah, but A's Australian, not British.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty multicultural.
Yeah, but Lainey just said every word.
It's actually very Canadian, A is. Which is why I think it probably is.
No, that's spelled differently. Lainey is just the Canadian one, not the Australian one.
Oh, you mean
Australian one is A-Y.
Okay, well, okay. Maybe the sorting hat is Australian.
Okay,
Should have tried that again.
Yes, redo the sorting hat lines.
Oh, that's not happening.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
My other question is, no, sorry, not my other question. The final question for you guys to answer and write it in the comments. Oh, before we do that, we need to reveal last week's answer.
Oh,
so,
can I reveal it?
Yep. But the question.
We practiced this, didn't we? We practiced this and we still can't remember.
So last week's question was, what spell does Ron try to use on Scabbers?
It wasn't a very good spell, was it?
Thank you, Hermione.
You're welcome.
And now we're gonna go over to Rebecca for the answer.
Okay. Sunshine Daisy's buttermilk turned the stupid fat rat yellow.
Yay!
Nothing happened.
And if you got that right, let us know. Or
We give you
pat
a
yourself
shout-out.
on the back.
We give you shout out.
Okay, so this week's question is, what are the 3 ghosts that we learn about in this chapter? What are their names?
I'm not supposed to answer.
No. Okay.
Good, I don't know.
And that concludes. You don't know, I know.
I
That
know, I'm
concludes
kidding.
questioning Coral.
Wait, hold on. Did we not learn about 3?
We
4?
did learn about. I don't think we did learn it before. Because
Wait.
I thought we did, but I'm pretty sure. But we didn't see Ravenclaw's ghost. I don't think.
No, we learned. Isn't Pete's the ghost?
He's the poltergeist.
What's the difference?
Also, she's spoiled. But yeah.
I'm sorry. I was trying to whisper there. That was confusing me.
Well, I'll explain it later.
Okay, but anyway, now you know what it's not. So
Yeah.
you'll get it right.
Okay, so now, if I were a wizard.
If I were a wizard.
So today, what was
We'll stop this song.
the sorting and the meal like for Becca Moon?
Okay, so when she was sorting, the hat went on her head and basically fell asleep.
What? What's the sorting hat doing? I mean, I know the sorting hat's really getting up there, but
Because I was like closer to the end.
Becca Moon.
Yeah.
We're like in the middle there.
I don't know. Okay, let me retry that. Rewind.
I remember that day.
Okay, stop ripping our songs from musicals.
Who said I did that?
We already have a copyright claim from using the Pro Luke theme thingy, Hedwig's theme in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
And we can't make any money off of this at all.
Okay, go.
Yeah. Okay. You
Becca
go
Moon.
first.
Okay. Well, Alana was obviously naturally really nervous, as I've said before.
She was Neville nervousing it.
She was Neville nervous.
Did
Like
she walk away with the hat?
No, but she did fall getting up there like Neville did. She was so embarrassed, but it's fine.
Why wasn't she happy though? Because Neville's so happy though.
But she doesn't know Neville.
This takes place way after though, so this would be like history.
Yeah.
This would be in their history of magic class.
Maybe. I don't know how important Neville tripping when he went to you just thought I was gonna say how important Neville was. I've never in my life. Everyone knows I love Neville.
They don't know you very well.
I love
They
Neville.
don't even know where you live.
You're being weird today because
I know,
we haven't even had dessert. She's clearly tired.
We usually record this in the morning, but today we're recording at night, so everything's just off.
But yeah.
Dramatic,
So Alana, so she was walking up. Well, yeah, she was walking up there, and then she was thrown into Hufflepuff. Hooray! Once she was thrown into Hufflepuff, she was like really happy because it was her favorite house.
Wait, what's your last name again?
We're not sure yet.
Did she go after or before Becca Moon?
After.
After?
Yeah.
Okay. Did the sorting hat fall?
No, but the sorting hat was
my
actually.
gosh.
Oh, what was the song they sang for That's When We Were Sorted? It was.
Oh, I'll sing it. Ready?
Okay.
I'm the sorting hat. Hat. I'm the sorting. Okay, let's restart that. I'm a sorting hat, and I'll tell you which house you're in. Are you a Gryffindor brave? Or are you a Hufflepuff loyal and happy? Because Hufflepuffs are the best in the whole wide world. And Hufflepuffs are the best house, even if Dana Radcliffe doesn't like us.
The sorting hat's really biased this time and somehow knows who Daniel Radcliffe is. Okay, so.
And then it was like Oris Slytherin, like Scorpius. He was nice. He was the best Slytherin that ever came out of the school.
Was Scorpius a Slytherin though?
Yes.
Oh yeah, he was. Otherwise he wouldn't have been friends with. Okay, it makes sense now. I'm sorry.
And
I love
Scorpius.
Scorpius. Sorry, go on.
Or Ravenclaw, super smart. And we know a lot of Ravenclaws too, so they can be good.
Yes.
We like Ravenclaws. The Gryffindors and Slytherins are sort of overrated.
Wow, you just insulted many people. Okay, the Sorting Hat did not say that. Anyways, moving on.
I'm just saying that Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw are underrated. They should all be treated equally.
They should all be.
They're all good at it.
Take a breath. Okay, so Alana went back and then she was like, wow, this was really fun. She was getting really hungry though. She was like, can we start eating soon? And then finally the food came. She's a vegetarian, so it was a little bit...
She's a vegetarian?
Yeah. There was a lot of meat there.
There was potatoes.
There was a lot of potatoes.
There's a lot of potatoes.
Yeah. But...
Beckerman was literally in heaven.
I mean, I feel like they're a little more, they would know a little bit more now to have vegetarian options. So, Yolanda was... That would make her a very boring podcast.
Just me, like, trying to explain
to
why
yourself.
you aren't talking.
So
I'm
Alana...
Tasha. I'm Becca.
And I'm trying to talk about Alana, who enjoyed her food very much because she wasn't hungry anymore. And there were lots of desserts, lots of great desserts that she loved. And we helped with Becca Moon.
Okay, so she was very excited about getting sorted and didn't trip. Actually, no, she tripped twice. 3 times.
That made Alana feel better.
Yes, she tripped 3 times, but she went before Alana.
Oh dear.
She tripped on purpose though, cause
she knew.
No, she just had big shoes because she's tiny feet. And it was the only size they came in, and she really liked them.
Oh no.
But anyways, so after she got sorted, when she went, the sorting hat sat on her head for a minute, and yes, it fell asleep. No, it was just pretending to sleep. It was pretending to sleep because like, it's not like Becca Moon was a boring person or anything, but like
just her mind was.
Yeah, she just had cleared her mind.
Wow.
On the train, she had like meditated and cleared her mind.
She's very tired.
Extremely. Okay. So the sorting. Let's just rewind. Okay, and then Tasha was talking about Alana.
Alana's sister's also there, so she wasn't completely alone. She had her sister there with
Is she in the Hufflepuff? Is she in a Hufflepuff?
Oh no. Well, she wasn't in Hufflepuff, but she could wave to her because she's at the Ravenclaw table.
Queen wave.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I started talking about Becca Moon, and I said blah 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 blah, and then she went up to the sorting hat and she didn't trip. She only tripped once because she knew Alana was going to trip.
Good friend.
Yeah, and then so the sorting hat went her head in and it sat there for about 5 seconds, and then it was like, Hufflepuff!
Yeah, and then everyone cheered.
Yes, only the Hufflepuff though, because the Hufflepuff though. Oh, and then she went to the table, and then when Alana joined her, they ate together, and Becca ate lots of meat, and
I made a disgusted face.
Yeah, and Alana made a disgusted face.
And now,
yes,
and that was that.
Yes.
And then they went up to bed after the meal. Dumbledore did not. Someone, whoever the headmaster is at the time.
We think it's Neville.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Now, speaking of, Neville made a speech. He tripped on the way up there.
Yeah. And he just did it because he knew that these 2 students were gonna be great, and they both tripped. And he's Neville, so.
And that's if I were a wizard.
If I were a wizard.
We can't forget from Hogwarts to Hollywood. Do you remember what you were gonna say? Because I remember.
I don't remember.
Okay, you think on that?
Oh, I remember.
Go.
It made me just so sad that they didn't sing any of the songs in the movie.
That was my thing too. It's so sad, especially
I'm
because of
crying.
how important the Sorting Hat songs become.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
Like, every time the Sorting Hat song sort of gets more depressing.
Maybe.
Maybe, because
But
you
yeah.
don't know.
It's really...
But it becomes more of a warning of what's going to happen in the coming year.
Mm-hmm. And how dare they not sing the Hogwarts song?
I know. I really wanted to hear that.
It's very sad. They could have at least sang the first line.
Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hogwarts. That's why.
I think they're gonna unsubscribe if we sing this too many times.
Okay, yeah, we have to sing it later.
And I think that's why it's not in the movie.
That's why.
But the Sorting Hat song could be. I mean, come on. The sorting in the movie, you know what doesn't make sense? Harry goes last.
Why?
I don't know what kind of order they were going in the movie, but
they were going in order of how famous
apparently, least to most, though, apparently. I don't understand.
And like, why was Hermione first?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where was Hannah Abbott?
Where was Hannah Abbott? Because she is a character later on.
Yeah, she was.
Oh, that was another thing I want to say. So many Hufflepuffs that year. Like, everyone was a Hufflepuff.
There were like 3.
I definitely said Hufflepuff at least 5 times.
3.
No. That's your other question. Tell me how many times I said Hufflepuff, because it was a lot. Definitely more than 2.
Tell me how many times I said Hufflepuff.
Tell us how many times we said Hufflepuff in this podcast episode.
Hufflepuff, 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 Hufflepuff. Wait, does Hufflepuff count?
No.
What about Hufflepuff? Hufflepuff.
Do you have anything else to say about the movies?
No.
Okay, then that concludes Hogwarts to Hollywood today.
To Hogwarts today.
And now to Becca's favorite segment, Witch Power. Well, we've met a good majority of the witches. Now
Except for Luna.
we met McGonagall.
Except for Luna.
Yeah, that's sad, but McGonagall's awesome. You're gonna have to wait a few books.
And by a few, she means 4, because it's in the 5th book.
Okay.
That makes sense. 1 plus 5. 4 equals 5.
Yes. But what did you think about the witches in this chapter?
McGonagall's awesome.
She is.
Hermione's bossy.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna go from... We're keeping Hogwarts to Hollywood and Witch Power close for this part. Remember in the movie, it's Hermione who says, nearly headless. How can you be nearly headless? But in this, it's Seamus.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
I didn't like that.
It was weird.
Because Seamus is not even a character.
Yeah, he's more of a character in the book than he is in the movie. Especially in the 4th book. No, the 5th book.
The 4th book. He's a character in the 4th book.
Yeah.
I see him at
But he's a lot a character in the 5th book. Remember, he's mad at Harry.
Yes?
Yeah. Because of all the drama that goes down.
Okay, I don't even remember that. I need to read these. That's why we're doing this podcast.
That's fine.
That's
Sorry again, guys. This is going to be really complicated. Imagine every time you want to reread something, you had to make a podcast. You only read 1 chapter per 2 weeks, guys.
Oh, we're recording in a week earlier. So if you had like a comment and you wanted to shout in this episode, well, sorry, because we're busy next weekend.
Oh my goodness.
We usually record the weekend before the Friday.
But if you do want to shout, if you want to like be a special guest or something, just let us know and you'll be in our next episode.
Yeah, our next one, which will be recorded in 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, and because Becca needs sleep,
I
I think this concludes our podcast today.
Did we get all the segments?
Yes, we
Did
did.
we double check?
I always double check.
I should double check.
Thank you for being
I'm
here.
so sorry. You just shouldn't have watched this episode. You should have just skipped to the next episode.
Time to say goodbye.
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 Bye. Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy Warty, Hogwarts.